So the biggest thing there is I was afraid of my emotions, like most men, like most humans. I didn't realize that emotions have literally the word motion in it. They are come into our lives to share or give us a signal to do something. And I was always good at moving my body, but I treated my body like shit. And I'm sure you can attest to this because I've seen your process and your story. So essentially, here we are. We've been trained to fight hurt, but fight hurt, I think, the wrong way. Meaning, fight hurt, meaning you just go until you can't go anymore. Now, when I realize my emotions are here and then I feel something, which is not easy because it just never is. Most people don't know how to play with their feelings or feel or talk about them. I give them a space, and I give them a space specifically in two different ways: by moving my body or by writing. Those two things. Moving my body, I don't beat myself up anymore. I go on a hike. I do some breath work, right? Those ways, not going training in the gym. That's a different training, right? And then I give myself the space to write. I do what's called, I close the loops. If I'm feeling something heavy and I can't move my body at the time or can't get away to nature, I sit my ass down and I say, okay, what am I feeling right now? I'm going to name this: anger, sadness, grief, shame, guilt, all the things. And I just play with it and create a story with words and poetry.
I love it, man. I There's like a lot to unpack in that, but yes, I've abused my body. Heard, just for everybody listening, validated. He's correctly there. I love the emotions have the word motion, and I think what you said is so profound, but I'm going to unpack it a little bit if you don't mind when it comes to like entrepreneurship. So you said like when you're, let's say you're emotionally charged, right? You're triggered, you're feeling depressed, the weight of the world. What it sounds like is you give it space. We talk about this a lot in our world, in our coaching programs, about having stillness or creating space. Or as my dear friend and best friend Stephanos, I love you, I talk about you on every podcast, you dick. um, and you're not going to listen to this anyways, but your assistant's probably going to tell you, but I love you and I'll have you on the show again since I was just crashing in your house. But the best piece of advice he ever gave me when we met a long time ago, I would always call him in breakdown, right? Because I was afraid to break down alone, right? It's like so weird. Like we lived in this world, and you and I were in for similar amounts of time. We both made the rank of staff sergeant until I was a gunny select, and then they booted me, and all that stuff. And like it was such a solo game, but it was a team game at the same time. But in the Marine Corps, I remember I would suffer in silence. I would suffer in
Hmm.
silence, right? And it was almost like that's how it was. And then as an adult now, like I'm petrified to even be with my feelings, so I reach out for validation from other people, like George, tell me it's okay. Steph, tell me it's okay. Lindsay, please let me know it's okay. And Steph, being the wise man he is, whenever that happens, he tells me to F off. And then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, does it hurt? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, sit with it longer. And he's like, are you uncomfortable? Like, I am. He's like, sit with it longer. And I was like, what do you mean sit with it longer? And he's like, witness it and sit with it until it passes. And when you talk about your space, what it sounds like you've nailed, and I know you talk about this more and we will, when you talk about giving space to your emotions, you're witnessing them, you're allowing them to come up, you're allowing them to come out. And it sounds like your best two tools are movement and writing, right? Having some sort of modality outside of you. And so I wanted to say that, and I wanted to hit that because the other point that you made that I think is so important that I had to learn is that movement is not self punishment. Movement is not
Hmm.
torture. Movement is not deciding, like, oh my God, my day is over. The IRS asked me for $100,000 check this week and I almost shit my pants, which really happened. And this is happening. Oh God, I'm going to go feel better. I'm going to go hike a mountain in 10,000 feet of climbing with no training, no prep or whatever.
No.
I've realized that as an entrepreneur, as a human, as a former competitive athlete, that I can't choose workouts or anything from a place of any reaction whatsoever. So when I'm in an emotional state, I do exactly what you say. I either go to a stillness practice, I go to a walk outside. Like right now, it's 18 degrees out in Montana. For you Canadian people, I think it's like 5 Celsius outside. It's beautiful, blue skies. I only wear shorts. I go for a nice cold walk and like really get ground back in to what's here. Um, but when you talk about this, and I want to make sure that I heard this correctly, when you witness those emotions for you, you're just giving them space. You sit with them until you've processed them out. Like you write until there's no shame left, or you have a story, or I'm going to venture and I'm going to lead this question a little bit. The goal isn't to have an understanding as to why, but it's to be a witness to what. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah. I don't try to go deeper into why or where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
I have just found it in my short years of life, almost 38 now, holding everything together. So actually, let me rephrase because we're doing this as a conversation. So if we look at our life in three ways, the mind, the body, the heart, right? The mind works to solve and create problems, right? The body, it reacts to the constriction of like our minds and our hearts. And the heart, it works to create intimacy and openness and vulnerability in our lives. So I just know and can feel, based probably on how we were trained in the Marines and also life experience and stuff, that when one of those is out of sync, I need to just get it out of my head and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never used to write. The first way to do that was just yell really, really loud at the top of my
Yeah, like
lungs.
somatic releases, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then when did you start writing?
I started writing when Trevor Bohem told me to write about my feelings. And you know what I told him? I said, "Fuck you. I'm not writing my feelings. Like, fuck that shit."
It was like when I met my wife, and my wife's like, "Hey, man, like, baby, you should really like look into like personal development training or doing some leadership training." And I was like, "Fuck that. I read books."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, you read books?" Like, she's like, "You should go to therapy for your PTSD." I'm like, "No, I just read books." Like, that was my whole defense. And here's what's funny: I'd never read a book ever. I would buy them. Like, I had Four Agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz, like sitting on my counter for like 3 years. So I had a clause out. Everyone's like, "Are you working on yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, haven't you read this book?" Like, I have it. I never said I read it. I just said I had it. So yeah, I definitely have been into that. And so you started writing your feelings. Did you notice when you okay, so first you resisted it, like F you, I'm not writing my feelings, right? Which obviously there's some stuff to explore there.
Yep.
And then when you started writing, like what was that like? Did you feel good? Did you feel a relief? Did it come smooth, or did it take a practice? Because like for me, I can write my feelings sometimes. What I tend to do is I tend to get words, and then I'll like write the words, and then a week later I'll have another thought and I'll go expand on it. But I struggle sitting down with a pen and paper. I like to be moving, like walking in
Mm.
a treadmill or sitting in the sauna. Like the things that I share with you that I write all come in the sauna, bro. Like that's like my writing cave. It's like I'm doing a sweat lodge and it comes out. The only problem is I'm limited because my phone shuts off about 20 minutes in because it overheats. And so I got to get it out in the first part.